In this house, we eat chocolate cake for breakfast. This chocolate tipsy cake is inspired from the Owens family of practical magic. If you've only seen the films, you may not realize just how important this cake has been in the book series. Let me show you how to make it. Here I have a bowl of 300 grams or 1 3/4 cups of chopped chocolate. I'm using 85% cocoa, a really good quality dark chocolate for this recipe. To this, I'm adding 300 grams or 1 1/3 cups of butter. The great thing about this recipe is because we're melting it, it doesn't matter if your butter is soft or firm. We're going to pop this on top of a double boiler that's just gently simmering. I have about 1 inch of water in my pot and I want to make sure that it's not touching the bottom of my bowl when I do this. Let's just slowly let them melt together. If you don't want to do this on the stovetop, you could pop the butter and chocolate mixture in the microwave and pop them on 30-second increments, giving a stir each time. The butter should protect the chocolate from scalding, but I always make sure to scrape down the sides and the bottom to make sure nothing sticks or burns. And you may need to adjust the heat on your stove from time to time if the water starts to boil up. If you're making this for someone with a gluten allergy, make sure every single ingredient is gluten-free. Sometimes chocolate can be made in factories with wheat, so really be careful with your ingredients. Once every last bit of chocolate has melted, take it off the heat and let it cool to room temperature. You may want to use gloves to lift your bowl off the pot. Mine's not too hot, but sometimes it can be quite scalding. Set that aside while we line our pans and prepare the rest of our ingredients. Line 2 8-inch pans with butter. And for even more extra security, I like to put a piece of parchment in the bottom. And I put a little bit of butter on that too. My cake pans have a removable bottom, but you don't have to worry if yours don't. Once it's chilled, the cake will tip out really easily. Because this cake is flourless, I don't want to add any flour to my pans, so instead I'm going to dust it with some cocoa powder. Dust it quite liberally because any excess is going to get tilted up the sides. Carefully tilt and tap your pan so the excess cocoa powder hits the sides of the buttered pan. And then tip away any excess cocoa powder. To the bowl, add 8 egg yolks. If you don't have a mixer, that's absolutely fine. You could do this with a hand blender or even by hand, but it's going to take a bit of muscle or magic. And if you can't magically separate your eggs, I've left my video linked in the description below on how to do it perfectly every time. Then add in 300 grams, 1 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. Start whisking. I'm going to give the sides a little scrape down to make sure all of the egg yolk gets incorporated. Now keep whisking until it's really pale and makes beautiful ribbons once you pull out the whisk. When you're nearly there, add in a pinch of salt. When it's ready, it should be really thick and also leave these beautiful ribbons on the top. Once your chocolate and butter mix has come to room temperature, add it to the egg yolks. If you add it while the chocolate is still hot, it could scramble your eggs. Nobody wants a scrambled egg cake, even if it is for breakfast. Now just gently whisk this together. This is the perfect example of why we scrape down the sides. You can see that the outer bits weren't incorporating. And keep mixing it until it's a cohesive color. That looks perfect. Add in 400 grams or 4 cups of ground almonds and give that a stir until it's really well combined. It's important that it's really well mixed now because when we fold in our egg whites, we don't want to have to worry about mixing in any additional ingredients and losing the volume. And to make it tipsy, add in 120 milliliters or 1/2 cup of rum or whiskey. This is a tipsy cake for a reason. Rum is part of the original inspiration for the cake, and the Owens do nothing by halves. But if you do want to leave the rum out, you could swap it out for a bit of coffee. Mix the liquid into the batter. Now set that aside while we whisk up our egg whites. For perfect egg whites, you want to make sure your bowl and whisk are very clean. To do this, wipe them down with a little bit of white vinegar or lemon juice before whisking. Any fat in the bowl or on the whisk means your egg whites won't whip up. Add in your 8 egg whites. You want to whisk this up to medium to stiff peaks. This is what we're looking for it to hold a nice gentle peak when pulled out of the mixture. The lore is Maria Owens got this recipe from her father-in-law from Portugal. It becomes such an important Owens family tradition that they serve it at birthdays, weddings, and even funerals. Baking is basically just another kind of magic in the Owens household. Because the chocolate and almond mix is so dense compared to the egg white, we want to add in what's known as the sacrificial egg white to lighten it up slightly. So add in 1/4 of your egg whites to this mixture and give it a really good mix. You can see that's lightened up considerably, and now we'll fold in the remaining egg whites. We do this by cutting down the center with our spatula and wrapping it around the mixture. And just continue to do this until all of the egg whites have been mixed in. This is a really gentle way to keep the volume in the egg whites. Make sure when you're scooping around the outside of the bowl that you're also getting right to the bottom. Once you have no more streaks of egg white, you're ready to pour this into your pans. Preheat your oven to 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit without the fan. If your fan is on, turn it to 160 degrees Celsius. That's 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Give your pans a gentle tap on your counter. This helps to remove any big air bubbles. And you want to leave a little bit of space at the top of your pan for them to rise up. If you have any leftover batter in your bowl, pop them in a little muffin tin, bake them, and you've got a little chef's treat. And into the oven. This needs to bake for 30 to 35 minutes or until the top starts looking a little bit dull. I like to test mine with a skewer or a toothpick. If it comes out clean, your cake is ready. While they're still hot, run a knife around the outside. You can see it's coming away pretty clean because we did all of that prep work earlier, but this just helps while it's cooling so that it doesn't crack or split the cake. Now let these cool completely. This ganache frosting is the perfect topping to this cake. It takes it from magical to out of this world. To a pot, add 400 milliliters or 1 2/3 cup of double or heavy cream. You want to heat it till it's just about boiling when you start to see the bubbles on the edge of the pan. Give it a gentle stir every now and again to make sure it doesn't scald to the bottom of your pot. If your cream does come up to a boil, take it off the heat and let it cool for a few minutes before adding it to your chocolate. I've chopped 400 grams, that's 14 ounces or 2 1/3 cups of dark chocolate. For this recipe, I'm using 85% because I want it to be really rich and chocolatey, but you could go as low as about 50% for this. Now pour your cream over the chocolate. Give it a little mix so that all of the bits are covered, and then let it stand for 5 minutes. Once you've allowed the hot cream to work its magic on the chocolate, give it a whisk. By waiting, it really makes it so much easier to mix together. If you wanted to, you could pour this right over the cake when it's nice and soft like this and have a really nice ganache finish, but I'd like mine whipped up. So I'm going to set it aside and let it cool to room temperature. Aunt Isabel always served this with a raspberry coulis with the raspberries from her garden because it really cuts through the richness of the chocolate. I'd highly recommend making it. Let me show you how. To a pot, add 2 1/2 cups, around 300 grams of raspberries. You can use fresh or frozen. To this, add 1/2 cup, 100 grams of sugar. If your raspberries are super sweet, you could probably cut down on the sugar a little bit, so give them a taste and use your discretion. Alternatively, if they're a little bit less sweet, you could add some more sugar. And 2 tablespoons, 30 milliliters of lemon juice. Turn this to medium heat. I like to give mine a little mash with a potato masher to help it all come together. After about 5 minutes, you should be able to feel that the sugar has melted. That's all we're looking to do here. We don't have to cook it any further, so turn it off and take it off the heat. I'm going to use an immersion blender to get mine nice and smooth, but you can always pop yours in a food processor or a regular blender. And to make it extra silky smooth, I'm going to put it through a strainer. This helps to filter out any seeds or large bits of raspberry that maybe didn't get blended up. You may need to use a spoon or a spatula to help it out a little bit. I like my coulis cold, so I popped mine in the fridge. And let me know down in the comments, have you been spellbound by the Practical Magic films? Have you read the books? And who's your favorite character? And while I have you here, if you like this video and you want more free recipes, please consider subscribing or hit that like button down below. It really does help my channel to grow and spread this video to other people like you. My removable bottom pans make it really easy to get the cake out of the tin, but if you haven't got one, you should be able to just tip it upside down and it should come out fairly easily. you may want to run your knife around it one more time. Remove the parchment paper and then put the cake top side down onto your serving platter. This gives you a nice even surface to ice. If you're only using one layer and you're not frosting it, leave it right side up, give it a dusting with icing sugar, and you're good to go. It's extremely warm in my home, so I ended up having to pop my ganache in the fridge to firm up. I've taken it out and let it come up to temperature for about 30 minutes, and I've sliced through it with a knife just to allow that air to circulate around it. Fit your whisk attachment or using a hand beater, you're going to want to whisk this up until it's nice and fluffy and light. Start on a slow speed to not overwork your mixer. Give the sides of the bowl a scrape down. And because I want this to be a little bit fluffier, I am going to adjust it with a little bit more heavy or double cream. Because I've used 85% chocolate, it is quite dark and not very sweet. So if you want a sweeter icing, now's a good time to add a little bit of powdered sugar. You can see it's coming away from the sides of the bowl much easier now. Now we have a super chocolatey, deliciously fluffy chocolate frosting. Franny Owens describes Aunt Isabel's chocolate cake as the most chocolatey chocolate cake you've ever tasted, which gives it pretty high standards to live up to. That said, if you find it's too much chocolate, if there's such a thing, you could split this recipe in half and just do one layer. Or you could triple it and do 3 layers. I'm going to leave the sides of my cake bare, so I'm just going to ice the top. If you're leaving the sides bare, you may not use all of the icing because it will ice the entire cake. Top with your second layer. You can see it's a pretty hearty cake, so you don't have to be super careful. It should hold together pretty well. And then more icing. Once your icing is spread to the edges, I like to give it a little flick with the edge of my spatula, or you could do this with the back of a spoon, just to give it those divots to make it look like that old-fashioned homemade chocolate cake. The hardest part here is knowing when to stop. You can leave it just like this or decorate it however you'd like. I'm serving mine with a raspberry coulis, so I'm going to add some raspberries on top. Cut yourself a big slice, top with raspberry coulis, and enjoy your magical breakfast. If you want to change this up, I've also made a lemon version of this cake, and it would go brilliantly with the raspberry coulis as well. And as Franny says, if you can't have chocolate cake for breakfast, what's the point in living? And honestly, I think we should all live that way, because isn't there a little witch in every one of us? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.